Hello and welcome to another edition of the Red Sisterhood with me, Lisa Vickers, and our gorgeous.
Helen Bartram.
um, we're here today to talk into expectation. Now, expectation for Helen and I is absolutely huge. We genuinely believe that expectation is the enemy of peace. But we live in a world where expectation is everything. Now, I'm a monkey for just going off um, on one first. I'm going to throw it over to Helen today and let her have first dibs on expectation before I go.
I wasn't prepared to have airtime this early on. Jeez. Um, yeah, I think, and it's funny that we selected this because I think it's rarely actually spoke about. But for me, there's two components to expectations. There's expectations in terms of what we hold of ourselves and what we hold of other people, and then there's expectations that other people hold of us. And for me, having expectations of other people has always led to disappointment. Expecting me from other people has always led to disappointment. And then putting unrealistic expectations on myself has always led to disappointment. And I think there has to be that balance between putting myself under a bit of pressure and challenge because I know that I'm capable of more, and not expecting ridiculous amounts from myself because I'm massively guilty of that. And I think when you kind of put yourself in that position and perform at that level for a period of time, that becomes the norm, and people then expect that from you. And when you withdraw and take some time back, you kind of shock them a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I think most of the dissatisfaction in our life comes down to expectation and what we expect it to look like or how we expect it to be. Like, I can pretty much guarantee most people never expected adult life to be as it is, or certainly to be this difficult. I know when I was a child, I would look at these adults, these grown-ups, and have this idea and belief that they were somehow this whole totally had everything together human being. And that's not the case. Like, we're adults. My expectation is we would like know exactly what we were doing. Everything would be together. And then you become an adult and you realize you still have absolutely no idea what you're doing. You're just bumbling through life, trying to turn on the lights.
With every other adult.
Hoping someone's going to throw you a life jacket when you need it, and realizing that you are the life jacket. So yeah, when I think about the biggest days of my life and how you expect them to be, you have two choices when it comes to that day. So I'm talking about graduations, births, marriages. Like, you have this idea that you've been given. Again, it goes back to that picture in our head and our beliefs, our core beliefs. So we have this idea of how something should be. And then we get there, and of course, it looks nothing like how it should be because our mind makes a fairy tale impossible ideal because there's no such thing as perfect. So you have two choices: to either just go with it as it is or be disappointed that it's not this picture in your head. Now, without realizing it, I've always kind of just either gone with it or not had bigger expectations. I know when I got married, um, everyone kept saying to me, "Yeah, but don't you care? Don't you? Aren't you worried about this? Don't you want that? Don't you want this?" And I was like, "No, not really. The one thing I wanted was to walk down an aisle in a church." And I said, That's only because that's a picture that I've had in my head since I was a child. Everything else, I'm not really that worried about. I just want my friends and my family to come together and watch me get married." So I had zero expectation, and I absolutely love my wedding day. And it was before it cost everyone a fortune. We didn't have any debt from my wedding day. We were really, really lucky. Um, but had I had the expectation that there was going to be birds carrying me down the aisle and Prince Charming who was going to, take me into a pumpkin-shaped carriage, things would have gone wrong, as they did on my day. Loads of things went wrong. But I didn't have this large expectation in my head. There's been other points in my life that I have, and I've expected things to go a certain way. Lo and behold, they didn't, and I've struggled with that. I just went off on a mad rant there. You want to tell us?
I like that. And when you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, like how many times have you had them kind of spontaneous nights out or bumped into somebody and gone for coffee, and because you're there and you don't have time to build up this, what's it going to be, what's going to happen, like they've then turned out to be some of the most incredible moments of your life when you just go in with zero expectations and like, let's just see. Like, and for me, like, imagine if we could take that approach from life. We kind of, it's funny when you talk about adulthood, because I think that as we grow up, we develop these expectations of what adulting looks like the house, the car, the kids, the job. And then you get it and you're like, oh, what now? Like, or even to the point that we do things for the wrong reason because it's expected of us, because maybe they were our childhood expectations of what we should do. And it's kind of like, what if we have no expectations and we just go with what is the right thing, what feels like the right thing for us? And same with my wedding day, like obviously it meant a lot to me to get married, but I was never one of them like, it's going to be the best day of my life people. Like, it was about getting married, and then it turned out to be one of the best days of my life. And I think that when we put high expectations on stuff, it's so much pressure that's unnecessary, that when it doesn't turn out to be like that, it kind of taints the wonderfulness that it even was. Yeah. So for some things that were really good, but they just didn't meet that high expectation, you're left with this tinge of disappointment and resentment or frustration that it didn't quite meet the bar, instead of focusing on all the wonderfulness that it was.
Yeah, 100%. And I know this next little scenario I'm going to mention will hit home for you, because your expectation of how yours would have looked is even more tinged than mine. So I would say the major event that I had massive expectation over and was totally left wanting was my graduation day. Like, I'd seen this
so subject.
Exactly. So I'd seen it so many times. Granted, on American TV, we don't really tend to see a lot on our TV around graduating from university. But I had this idea in my head of like, there would be me on my own, and I would go and I would get my certificate in my hand, and it would be this magical experience. But it just felt like farmed out. So you went on the stage with lots of other people. You didn't even have your certificate. Your certificate gets sent to you later. You get this fake little nothingness. You're only allowed so many people to come. The whole day just felt like a drama rather than a celebration. You had to have these certain rules. You had to go up. The person that gave you'd never met, it was somebody that the university deemed appropriate to hand you your scroll. And it just left me thinking, wow, I worked my backside off for this moment that I'm supposed to feel like accomplished and like, yes. And I just walked off the stage thinking, I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel heard, and I didn't feel like they recognized what we had accomplished. It just felt like a process that they did every year, because that's what they did. And I know this is a sore point for you because you didn't even get that. So
you make me feel so much better about the experience. It's funny because I had this conversation this morning with Neil. So I graduated, when you're listening to this, I graduated in 2020, which was obviously, we were in lockdown. So all the graduation ceremonies got pushed back to autumn and then spring 2022. And it's all kind of just, I'm just waiting. I'm just patiently waiting. But for me, I think because the one thing that when I was really struggling in uni and I was thinking, I can't do this assignment and look after children and keep sane, I would visualise standing in that uni square with my cap and gown and feeling absolutely proud and buzzing of myself. And then when my graduation got took off me, I was like, that is the only thing that got me through. I want my selfie in my cap and gown. But I get it. And what you're saying, it's funny because, and me and you are both guilty of this, Lisa, celebrating our progress and how well we do, regardless of the shit.
Okay, so Helen and I are recording this for a radio show where obviously it's no swearing allowed. Really, really hard for Helen and I because we are absolute potty mouths, and when we're excited and passionate, it kind of just comes. The expectation of language is very interesting, and I find that swear words are offensive. That we even have swear words, I find hilarious because it's only our idea of what a word means that makes it offensive. So we were laughing there because obviously we've let out a little swear word. Helen did. I don't know if I did earlier on. I hope not, but.
And you're right. There is this kind of expectation around swear words in terms of them being bad words, or but actually sometimes there is no other appropriate word. But yeah. So as I was saying, life throws stuff at us. There's always going to be curveballs, and when you kind of get through that and you do the challenges and then still make progress, stopping and going, wow, look how well we've done, is necessary. But I know that we're both guilty of that. And I think that that's where the graduation thing comes in for me, is that it was my one focus and I had no expectations of the day apart from I just want the picture. Yeah. Expectations. I don't know where I was going, but that's life. That's what that's what we were meant to share.
Yeah, absolutely. The expectation on ourselves there was to rein in a part of ourselves, which is very difficult for Helen and I because we're very much about being completely authentic in yourself. But there are certain times where obviously swearing isn't appropriate on the radio, being one of them for whoever would listen. Helen and I work with children. We wouldn't get up at the front of a class and be swearing. So when we're in adult world, it's very difficult for us to conform to that expectation of us. I think we're going to need to do an expectation 2.0 around the really large part of expectation that we haven't spoke about. So we spoke about in this episode our expectation of our experiences. We haven't really gone into our expectation of family life and things like that, but we both mentioned, and we haven't had the opportunity to talk into, our expectation around ourselves and around other people. And I know that's huge for both of us in terms of putting ourselves on a pedestal, being put on a pedestal by our family, and putting others on a pedestal. Because when you're put on a pedestal, there's only one way to go, isn't there, really?
Yeah, I had that. And I know we don't have time to chat about that now, but I was the first girl for 40 years in my family. So I was known as the special one. And it's funny because obviously all my cousins were boys and I've got a brother, and I was the special one. I could get away with whatever I want. And that is incredible. Like growing up, I had so much confidence and self-belief that I genuinely think has led me to be able to do what I do in the world so much easier. But then imagine going into the world to figure out you're not the special one. I'm not
special. We're all special.
Oh, I'm special. We're all bloody special. But then to figure out in the world that you are nothing, no special, no different to everyone else, when I'd kind of grown up in this environment where I was.
Yeah. So we will leave it there. I don't know how long we've chatted for, but I think we've given you enough to ponder on expectation, and we will do an expectation 2.0, whether that's the next one or whether we'll leave you hanging a little while. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Apologies for potty mouth. No apologies, really. And we'll see you soon. Anything you want to say there, Helen?
No, thanks.
Okay, bye.